going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this series dedicated to exploring the intersection of artificial intelligence and user experience research. I'm Andrea, your host, and we're here to dive into the latest AI-enabled research tools. Whether you're a seasoned UX professional, an aspiring researcher, or just curious about the potential of AI in your field, you are in the right place. I am so excited to welcome John Provine, CEO and co-founder of Voicepanel. John spent over a decade at Google working in product and engineering roles across search, ads, and maps. He spent much of his time in his career building user feedback software, including internal feedback systems at Google and A/B testing products like Optimizely. He holds a BA in computer science from Harvard and an MBA from Berkeley. And John, our paths first crossed at Google working in search years ago. And I'm so happy to be here with you today to explore Voicepanel. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Andrea. And thanks to everyone joining the webinar today, taking time out of your busy schedule.
So give us the elevator pitch. What does Voicepanel do for UX researchers or consumer researchers?
Yeah, so we help teams to conduct qualitative research at scale. We built a software platform that allows our users to create research studies, either with their own customer base or with their target market. And we have built end-to-end a process where you can recruit, screen, actually conduct the interviews with AI, and then synthesize the findings as well. And we've really tried to focus on a few key use cases starting out. Number one is tactical feedback. So let's say you want to get feedback on a new landing page or a Figma prototype, or maybe an ad creative. This is not something where necessarily you want to spend tens of thousands of dollars with a consultancy or have a focus group. You just want to get some quick feedback, ideally within a few hours. And so that's where we really started out is, could we take this rigorous qualitative process and build that into a software platform that is easy to use?
Why did you start Voicepanel?
The thing that I've always enjoyed the most about my work is talking to customers. I feel this is the most important thing that good product managers can do. And I think that the reason for that is I was always learning new things. Every single customer conversation would spark new ideas about sort of better products to build. And I really enjoyed sort of every aspect of that process, either directly talking to customers or working with UXR teams like yourself, Andrea, to do qualitative research. And so I was excited to work in this space. This is something I really want to dedicate the rest of my career to. Another reason I decided to start Voicepanel was sort of a technological insight that I had a couple of years ago. So before you and I worked together, Andrea, I was on the Google Maps team. And one of the responsibilities that we had was collecting fresh information from local business owners. And so for things like holiday hours, this Memorial Day weekend coming up, we actually tried using the Google Voice Assistant to call local business owners and just ask them, are you open for Memorial Day weekend? And not only did this work, but it was an incredibly effective use of conversational AI technology. And so that really got me thinking about, could this type of technology be used in a user research context as well?
Great. And you mentioned incorporating AI into your product and in I think more than one spot.
Yeah, so starting out, we focused on a couple of areas. So one is the interview experience itself. And so unlike a survey, which is a very static experience, everyone gets the same set of questions. With the experience we offer, just like a survey, you can take it at a web URL, but it's an interactive experience where the interviewer, which is controlled by AI, will ask probing follow-up questions depending on the responses it gets. So it's a much more interactive and personalized experience. So that's where we've really focused starting out.
Yeah.
We've also built AI into our reporting pipeline. So after getting back hours of transcripts, we will automatically do some coding work in those transcripts to pull out the top themes that came out, and then summarize that in a report back to our customers. We do see a lot of other opportunities for AI technology that we're exploring, for example, in the screening process, in the recruiting process, just to make sure that, as you know, that getting quality respondents is the most important part, and sometimes the most time-consuming part of qualitative work. And so we do see potential for technology to help there a lot.
Great. Yeah, it's definitely very interesting how the AI is able to help researchers and teams that are exploring concepts or gathering information to be more efficient, as well as then have efficiency on running the studies as well as in the analysis and reporting side. What is voice panel's superpower?
I would say that the having a dynamic interview experience is the superpower. It's an interviewer that never gets tired. And so, not only can it conduct, large scale of interviews that may not be feasible in a traditional sort of in-depth interview or it's a focus group context, but it can conduct hundreds of interviews at once. It can also conduct those interviews in 29 different languages. And so, that's a powerful use case is international market research,
Exactly.
where you can actually have respondents or speak in their native tongue and then get the translated responses back. And so I would say that sort of the speed of sort of getting to insights as well as the scale that you can get with it, that's how I would summarize the superpower of our tool.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge fan of, and I would agree with you, the superpower is that ability to collect so many interviews at scale so quickly and in so many different languages. That really wowed me. Can you show us what it's like to interact with Voice Panel as a respondent?
This is our welcome page. You can see that this is going to take 10 minutes. We always respect that duration. So, every respondent is guaranteed this will take no more than 10 minutes. This is where I can select my preferred language if I want. And as you can see, I'm consenting to recording my voice in this particular example.
Thanks for participating. To start off, what type of beer do you like?
I don't have beer very often, but when I do, I enjoy IPAs. I'm a big fan of Pliny the Elder, which is a local beer.
What do you like most about IPAs, and what makes Pliny the Elder stand out to you?
Now I'm going to notice that I can mute the moderator here as an option if you want to keep this sort of a muted experience. Yeah, I enjoy the sort of subtle sour taste. Pliny the Elder stands out because it's just a very smooth beer, very, very well balanced.
All the taste, no bitter endings. Does not actually exist, don't sue us.
The ad definitely made me feel happy. It's summer coming, we've got Memorial Day coming up, and I don't honestly love Heineken, but I think maybe this got me thinking more about it. So I'm not going to complete the whole interview experience, but hopefully what you can see from this quick demonstration is that the AI is interacting with me. It's understanding what I said in real time and then asking probing questions, which, as you know, is when some of the best insights will come out from respondents.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That sort of grounds everyone's understanding of how it works as a consumer. Are there other elements to recruiting or screening that are available for folks?
Yeah, so we are just like survey software in that we're compatible with any research panel or with your own sort of customers, and we're agnostic into sort of how that recruiting is done. One of the most common use cases of our product is using research panels like Dynata or Scent, user interviews, Prolific, Respondent.io. So let me show you that this next tab here for sharing. So that this is how you would decide how you want to distribute either to your own customers with a link or with a research panel. And so just like survey software, you have a link here that's unique for your project. So you could send that via email, for example. If you are sending to a panel, typically that's going to require a completion redirect, so that when respondents finish the experience, they're redirected back to the panel to receive their compensation. We've also built a deep integration with one panel, Respondent.io. We've had a very good experience working with that team and very happy with the quality of respondents that we've been able to get there. This doesn't require that you have an account with any panel. If you sign up for Voicepanel, you can use this feature right away. And then here I can decide the exact criteria I have for recruiting. So I can recruit either consumers or business professionals. I can decide how many completes that I want, and you will only be paying for respondents who fully complete the experience. And then here I can decide what incentive I would like. Typically we'll recommend $1 per minute for consumers. Here you have demographic targeting, and then critically screener questions as well. And so after setting this up, we will use our API with the panel to automatically do the recruiting, and then you can monitor the status inside Voicepanel.
Can you save a screener for to use repeatedly, or is it or do you just need to configure it each time?
Not yet. Yeah, we're working on the ability to duplicate screener questions, where we use them across distributions, across projects. We know that's really critical workflow, as you're going to be reusing those screener questions across many projects. So it's on our list as well.
How quickly do results or responses tend to roll in?
Our customers are getting results within an hour, maybe 2 hours, for those general consumer samples. For example, if you wanted 100 responses for US general population, typically you could have that completed in about 30 minutes with the panel integration that we have. Of course, we recommend for every project that you are doing screener questions, so you're really getting the right audience, and the more specific that is, so that the better results you're going to get. And of course, there can be some trade-off with time there. For B2B, where you have a very niche targeting criteria, that could sometimes take multiple days, in some cases weeks, kind of depending on the exact criteria.
Someone said, can I embed this as part of a survey programmed on another platform like Qualtrics or Decipher?
That's not currently. It is something we are working on. A very common request we've gotten is people have an existing quant survey, and they would like to use Voicepanel to probe deeper based on the survey response. And so to make that work, we have to feed the survey answers into Voicepanel as additional context. So we're working on it, and we think that will be a powerful use case, but not currently.
Is there any preparation I need to do before I would start using Voicepanel?
Obviously, if you want to recruit from your own customer base, you'd have to prepare that list that you want to include. But in terms of setting up the project in Voicepanel, it's a pretty straightforward process, which I can walk through here. You can log into this management app that I'm showing right here. The first step is to create a project where you can design a discussion guide. In terms of setting up a new project, there's a couple of options. You could either start from scratch and write a discussion guide, just as if you were preparing to do qualitative in-depth interviews. The other option is you can start with AI, where we can help you draft some questions based on the research objectives that you have. And so if, for example, I wanted to do some research with dog owners, let's say I want to understand how dog owners purchase new collars. I just put in an objective. And then this is going to draft some questions that could be included in a discussion guide. And so just like that, this is ready to go. But here you can see I can configure this further. I can decide how I want to present this project to respondents on a welcome screen. I can customize the welcome message here. And then down here, you can see the interview plan. So here I can create questions. I can pick the duration of interview that I want. Obviously, I can edit and reorder these questions. One feature that we recently added is the ability to include stimuli and tasks in the experience as well. And so that's how we had that, the YouTube video for the Heineken ad. You can include an image as a stimulus, videos, that you own, or sort of YouTube videos, audio clips, websites, Figma prototypes, or you could even have people do an offline test, like a taste test, for example. Yeah, so you can edit, any of these questions. So maybe, when was the last time purchased dog collar? Maybe it could be a better question to start out with. And one thing to note is that this is very different from a survey design, because these are not static questions that are just read in sequence, but rather, each of these questions is a discussion topic, and there will be probing questions that are asked. So for example, if I answered the question here, I purchased a dog collar about 6 months ago, maybe the follow-up question would be, why did you decide to purchase a dog collar at that time? And so, this is treated just as a guide to the discussion rather than, an exact script. We also know to, for example, if I were to answer question 3 as part of question 1, the interviewer would then know to skip over question 3 and go straight to question 4.
Right. So it's paying attention in real time to what's being said and how it's being, what's coming up. And then Allison wants to know if there are plans to add quantitative question types like scales and ratings or something other than voice.
Our goal is just to get our customers the highest quality feedback through any means. And so, yes, that is something we are adding to our product.
Someone's asking if there are plans to record videos of participants in the future.
Yes, we built it. We have that open to select customers right now. We haven't rolled it out for everyone, but that is a commonly requested feature that we'll be adding soon.
Because generative AI can generate variation in output responses, can there be inconsistencies in the AI's follow-up questions if a particular study is run multiple times?
Yes. So there definitely can be inconsistencies. A lot of the time, that's desirable, right? If respondents are saying different things, you want to probe in different areas, and that's really kind of core to the value offered. But there is indeterminism with AI technologies. So even if you have the exact same prompt or someone gives the exact same answer, it could do different things. And so this is something we are constantly experimenting with to figure out ways to measure and improve the quality of our interview experience. So it really is being kept on track, and it's a delightful experience for everyone who comes in.
Susan's asking, is the AI able to discern when somebody's lying or when a respondent is trying to trick the system or like giving kind of crummy answers or bogus answers?
The interviewer does the best job it can to keep the interview on track. And so for every respondent, it aims to get through the entire discussion guide, make sure all of the questions are answered, while also personalizing the experience. And so if a respondent is really going off track or seems to be lying, giving bogus answers, it will try to kind of bring it back to the research objective. We don't have anything in our system right now explicitly for lying detection, although this is a major problem facing the industry, particularly with research panels. There's a lot we think we can do there over time to detect when people may not be forthcoming or being truthful.
Someone was saying that they saw a 3-minute video that was still accepted. Can that still be high quality?
In this tab here, you can flag for removal. So, in this case, I just, removed this transcript here. So you can check this box whether you want this included in the analysis.
Okay. So you have the control as the researcher to sort of do that to take a look at something that looks like an outlier and then determine if it's still worth including or still valid. You mentioned that this can be fielded in different languages. Do I need to translate these questions?
You do not. And let me show you how that works here. So as I go to preview this project, in this case, the questions were written in English. But if I were to take this in German, for example, you can hear the experience written in German.
Danke für Ihre Teilnahme. Ich werde nur ein paar Fragen stellen und Sie.
And so, yeah, we let the respondent choose their preferred language, and then the transcript will all be in German. We would then translate the German transcript back to English for the analysis.
Great. So the respondent is in control of what language they interact in, and then it's translated back for me as an English speaker, so I can understand what was shared.
Yeah, that's right.
How does it handle regional privacy or data handling requirements like GDPR or CCPA?
We are actively working towards GDPR compliance, as well as SOC 2, HIPAA as well. So there's a lot more that we need to do there. Our data retention policy is quite simple right now. So if we get a request from either a respondent or a customer to remove data, we will respect that 100% of the time. Consent is extremely important for whether it's audio or video recording. We don't require the recording to happen. So our default is that the recording happens on the respondent's device, and it never makes it to our servers, and we don't save that information.
Okay, so on the technical side, it's possible to only get the transcript extracted and sent across.
Correct.
For data protection. That's great. Thank you. Folks were asking a little bit about HIPAA compliance and how do you handle sort of sensitive topics?
We use OpenAI. If there's sensitive information that is shared, it will know to move on to the next question, and then we'll strip that out. But there's a lot more that we need to do there. So for example, stripping out PII that's shared is something that we're working on. But right now we conform to the standard OpenAI policies. All right. Yeah, so maybe we'll come back to the Heineken ad. So I just ran this yesterday. The ad came out 2 days ago, and I ran this using our panel integration with 50 respondents. So here you can see the discussion guides, starting with what type of beer do you like? This is where I added a link to the YouTube video for the respondents to watch the ad. And then here are a bunch of follow-up questions that were added. How did the ad make you feel? What moments stood out to you? And so on. In this example, I did have a consent to record the responses. And so you can play back exactly what people said. Over in distribution, you can see, I started out with a small sample just to see how it performed. And then I made a few tweaks and rolled it out to a larger sample. So started with 5 and then went to 40 here.
Nice. So you sort of did a test run first.
Yes. And that's something we always recommend.
Great. Someone was asking about like the drop-off percentages and what are you seeing as like the average completion rate relative to maybe a typical online structured survey?
Yeah, we have been really encouraged by the completion rates. So we've done a lot of testing of Voicepanel project versus a Qualtrics survey, for example, with the same set of questions, where the Qualtrics survey has a lot of open-ended questions. And as you know, those survey open ends do not convert very well. People do tend not to share very much. But as you'll see in these transcripts, people are really sharing stories. They're opening up. And we've gotten a lot of feedback that people really prefer this experience to taking a survey. This is, of course, really going to depend on who the audience is. If you were sharing this with your customers who just canceled their subscription a minute ago, you may not have the same conversion rate, of course. But we think that making the experience more interactive, more personalized, trying to make it visual and delightful, our goal is to really have it convert much better than the sort of the standard surveys that you see today.
Great, thank you. Why don't you show us some of the responses so we can get a sense for that, the depth that people go into?
Yeah, so here you can see the funnel. So of the people who started, 91% fully completed the experience. And then I also just unchecked a few of these responses for ones to include in the analysis. So you can see in this particular example that the average length of interview was about 8 minutes, and that includes watching the ad, 50 responses. So this is about 6 hours of conversations. And looking at the timing here, you can see, for the large sample that started at 10:21 in the morning yesterday, then the last response came in at 11:09. So within about 40 minutes, we collected 6 hours of conversations. And then you can dig into each of these transcripts. So let's pick one of these here. What you get is a automatic summary of everything from the transcript. And then you can also read the full transcript here. The numbers you're seeing here are refer to the original discussion guide questions in the setup. And then the P here refers to a probe, right? So this is a question that wasn't in the discussion guide, but the interviewer asked in response to the previous answer. And you can play these back. So let's just try an example here.
The first feeling that comes to mind would be nostalgic, just because who doesn't feel that way when they see Deadpool or Wolverine?
With the speed and the scale that you can conduct the interviews, I don't think I would have the time to read each of these transcripts. I know you've built in some analysis tools. Do we want to show us some of those?
Sure. So this tab is just showing you the raw responses that came in. And as I mentioned, you can decide, if there's certain transcripts you think are poor quality or spam, you can just not include them in the analysis here. And then moving to the analysis tab, this is where we automatically sort of come up with the main themes that came up and sort of recommendations coming out of the project. And so the interface today is where we take each of those discussion guide questions from the setup, and then we show what are the most direct responses across all of the transcripts to that particular question. And sometimes those responses, they may actually be coming from one of the probing questions. Maybe there was something mentioned later in the interview that wasn't from this particular question. We would actually pull that out here. And everything you're seeing here was done automatically. So there's a one-click analysis to generate this. So it takes just a few minutes. And here I can dig into these different themes. So I mentioned when I took the experience that I enjoy IPAs. Turns out a lot of other people are in that bucket. Here you get a summary of what was said. And then I can see everyone who mentioned IPA in their interview experience. And here I can click on that particular quote to see that in context. And so the highlight here shows that.
Nice. One person's asking about the translation. When these are translated, is there a way to go back and see the native language responses, or is it, or how does that work for like quality checking?
Yeah, I don't have an example in this project. I think they were all 50 were in English, but there's a toggle at the top where you could say show the original language of the interview or show the English translation. And there's been companies that have been trying to tackle this for decades. And I think we have a long way to go to make this more useful, more actionable. There's a lot we want to do of including executive summaries, highlight reels, segmentation, the ability to sort of interact with this data in a dynamic fashion. what we've really focused on to date is trying not to over-interpret and instead just sort of present the data, as it is, right? These are the answers that we found that you can read verbatim. We tried to do a little bit of categorization to help you navigate through it. There's a lot of context, for the business that we may not be aware of, and we don't want to go too far in sort of that, over-interpretation.
Is it possible for the researcher to give feedback on the product's analysis? Or, if it auto-generated those categories in your analysis side, is it possible to tweak that or edit that and then have it rerun?
Yes, it is possible to supply your own categories if a certain bucketing of answers that you want. I think I might have mentioned we're also working on the ability to ask your own question of the transcripts, so that will be coming soon.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of work happening in that area.
What else would you like to show us?
Well, I haven't spent a lot of time, looking through this analysis here, but I thought it could be helpful just to get a quick sense of what people said. So, a lot of people mentioned the humor of the ad. What could be interesting here is, maybe some detractors, people who disliked this ad. So, here I can see that there were 4 respondents who said that they're less likely to purchase Heineken Silver after seeing the ad. And then I can dig in to try to understand why. I'd be less likely to purchase because what I mentioned earlier about the celebrity, endorsements. So I think that's a way that you can so quickly get to, like, I want to understand the detractors, and then you can kind of pinpoint the exact point of the transcript when something was said.
Laura would like to know, does it provide better or more valuable information than a traditional qualitative interview?
We get this question all of the time, and I think it's the first question many people ask is, how does this compare to the qualitative work that we already do? A very common use case of our product has been doing some quick discovery at the outset of a bigger research effort. So, for example, maybe you are planning to do focus groups, qualitative interviews, or a large-scale quant survey. You want to sort of get a quick feel from what the market has to say about a topic, and you want to do a little bit of that discovery at the outset. So that's a very common use case for Voicepanel, and in that case, it's really not replacing parts of that process. It is just sort of an aid in the process that customers already have. Maybe it's research that you just don't have the time to get to with lack of resources, and maybe address more of the research requests that are coming in. But there are opportunities where the speed, the scale, as well as affordability could enable you to do more research. What I usually say is that there is no replacement for directly talking to your customers or your market. But by no means do we feel this particular tool is something that can replace the rapport and the empathy building that you can get from a direct conversation. So we really consider ourselves, we're another tool in the tool set.
Thank you. Here's an interesting question. Allison wants to know, what types of studies is Voicepanel not a good fit for?
It's a great question. The interviewer, because it is not deterministic, and because it is a new technology that we're all sort of looking to understand, I think for really sort of in-depth interviews, our tool is not very well suited today. Typically our customers are running interviews that are 10 minutes long. That short form format seems to work really well. But if you are doing an hour-long expert interview, we've done that, and it does work, but it is a lot for people to sort of sit through at a computer. So I would say it's not great for that use case. The other thing I would say what we're not great for yet, but something that we are very excited about investing more in is sort of in the moment customer feedback. And this is increasingly a focus for us where we want to be embedded at certain points in a customer journey, like onboarding or sign up, cancellation. These are critical moments where customers are the most vulnerable, and sort of you want to catch them at that moment. And in that context, sort of this voice interview experience is not appropriate, but thinking about ways that we can make that interactive and really frictionless in a way that people will be very willing to do it and convert well. That's something we're thinking a lot about. So we're not super well suited to that use case yet, but it's something we're very actively investing in.
Researchers often work in collaboration with others. Is there a way to share or collaborate in Voicepanel?
Yeah, so you can set up multiple accounts in Voicepanel, and then each account you can invite different collaborators to work together on projects. So we do offer collaboration there.
Great. Someone would like to know a little bit about what's available from like training or customer support perspective. Is there a way to get the engineering on your side and engineering on their side to coordinate to like figure out how that works?
Absolutely. So my co-founder and I are extremely hands-on with all of our customers, and we're all learning, and we're constantly evolving our product. We're finding new ways to integrate with our customer systems. For example, sort of exposing APIs. And so, we are very involved. So working with different teams to understand their needs and adapting our product.
Thank you so much. I want to just take a moment to thank you for sharing what you've been working on and building such a useful, thoughtfully designed product.
This is really a journey for us. We're a new startup. We've had our product out for a few months now. And we see building a quality respondent experience is a multi-year journey for us to really understand what is going to make this experience seamless and delightful. Thank you, Andrea, so much. I'm honored to be part of this, and I hope this was helpful and interesting for everyone who joined.